All right, so today we are going to be making cottage cheese ice cream in the air fryer. So what we really need, no, I'm just kidding. Today we're going to be making some cottage cheese ice cream. Yeah, some of you might be thinking, cottage cheese ice cream, dude? And I was right there with you. Others are going to be like, oh yeah, cottage cheese ice cream is actually really good. A lot of people have said it's kind of like a cheesecake slash ice cream vibe going on. And to me, that sounds pretty darn delicious. I have not made this recipe yet. So this is the very first time that I'm making this recipe. I figured instead of like testing it out and then doing a video on it, I would just do it for the first time and we'll do a video on it and we'll check it out and see how it is. So this recipe is from Food Network. Katie Lee, she made this on the kitchen. She made a strawberry one and this one. This, the one we're gonna try, is a salted caramel cottage cheese ice cream. Now I know cottage cheese ice cream is kind of big in the low carb communities, and this one is not going to be low carb, but it is just a few ingredients, so I'm sure you could easily substitute like some keto friendly ingredients for the ones we're going to use today. But I was told that sugar is kind of important in the cottage cheese ice cream because of the texture. Like if it doesn't have enough sugar, apparently it'll kind of crystallize and it just won't be the good texture. So just keep that in mind if you're going to do like a low carb version. We got first ingredient here is cottage cheese. I need to double check the recipe. This is 24 ounces and I think we might need less. So I'm going to double check the recipe before we get going. But you will need a food processor or a good blender because we're going to smooth out the cottage cheese. You're also going to need like a loaf pan. So get a loaf pan. This is where the cottage cheese is going to go. So let me check the recipe to get the measurements right, and then we'll get started. It's 16 ounces of cottage cheese. So not all of this, but most of this. So that's about 2 cups. You could weigh it out if you want, but we'll just go with the measuring cup. So that's 1 cup. We'll get that in the food processor. I know cottage cheese is kind of like a very polarizing ingredient in general. I like cottage cheese. I've never tried it as ice cream before, but I do like it. Just kind of as a side on its own, or with a salad is good. The way my family has always made lasagna has been with cottage cheese instead of ricotta cheese. I don't know how many other people use cottage cheese in lasagna instead of ricotta cheese. It's just how I prefer lasagna because it's what I grew up on. So anyway, 16 ounces of cottage cheese in the food processor, and we're going to smooth it out. There we go. Look at that. Look at how smooth that is. That's crazy. I've never done that to cottage cheese before. Very cool. Okay. So now, salted caramel means we're going to be using some caramel sauce. This is just store-bought caramel sauce. I don't think I've ever tried this either. So we'll just kind of put a little on the finger and give it a taste, right? Okay. Yeah, it just tastes like really sweet caramel sauce. Go. Dump that in there. Stuff's like honey. It's going to need a little bit of help getting out of there with a spatula. The spatula's always good to scrape the sides off of anything when it comes to cooking, especially sticky stuff. So it is a salted caramel, and cottage cheese actually has a good salty flavor to it. So this kind of really works out really well, but it does say to add a little bit of sea salt. So I have some in a grinder here. So we'll just grind that sea salt in, and then we give it another bit of a buzz. Okay, let's give it a taste. Okay, so it's not a very strong flavor. I would say it almost might need a little bit more caramel sauce, because it still mostly tastes like cottage cheese. Just it's got like a little sweetness to the end. But we're gonna go with how the recipe is. It does have like a nice kind of golden color to it. So now all we need to do is add it to our loaf pan here. So we're gonna just give it a pour. Get every last. This is crazy. Like, if I walked into the kitchen right now and saw someone doing this exact step, I would not think that this is cottage cheese coming out of this food processor. All right, so there we go. It's in the loaf pan. I suppose you could use like another pan for this, as long as it was like long enough or wide enough to get a scoop, you know, get a good constant scoop going of, you know, the ice cream, because it obviously does not fill this all the way to the top or anything. All right, so one more ingredient is some mini chocolate chips. Not good enough. Let's get that going here. There we go. Mini chocolate chips. And what we'll do is kind of mix most of those in and save a little bit for the top, I think. Here, and just kind of stir these in a little bit. We're going to wrap it in plastic wrap and freeze for 4 to 6 hours. And then we'll come back and give it a taste. Okay, so this seems really hard. I've let this sit out on the counter for about 5 minutes. I'm going to take a scoop here and see if we can actually, we can kind of get in there. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think it would scoop exactly like regular ice cream would, but... Okay, so it kind of looks like chocolate chip ice cream, right? I mean, it definitely has the look of ice cream. It's scooped kind of sort of like ice cream, but the taste. How does it taste? Is it going to taste like ice cream? Probably not, but is it still good? So I can totally see why a lot of people says it's kind of like a combination of cheesecake and ice cream, because it is literally like taking a bite of a frozen piece of cheesecake. Exactly like it. It does have that salted caramel kind of taste to it. And the mini chips give it a nice sweet chocolate flavor as well. Let me know in the comments if you've tried cottage cheese ice cream and what flavor did you end up doing. I'd love to know, because I would totally make this again, but I'd want to try a different flavor just to explore it more. Thanks for watching Cooking with Chris. Give the video a like if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to the recipe in the description box below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, if you like food content, and I'll catch you on the next one.